Did you not want me to record? Okay. I think you just stopped it. Oh, no, you didn't. Okay. Alright. Already with this. Edgar has not been rolling very well for me.
Huh?
I've been rolling relatively low. Or, I mean, high, I guess, with poor Edgar. Most of my checks are from the book.
Really good roles as a secondary character.
Oh yeah. Well, my secondary character just has generally better stats. It can do all sorts of cool stuff.
Actually, one or two more people, you know.
Yeah. Nah, I guess it's just me that can't roll well. Let's see. Let's try again. I never can miss my credit rating. It's at 95. There we go. Well, one day, when Edgar Casey dies or goes completely insane and kills everyone else.
Ba-boom!
Welcome back.
Nice to be back. I broke out some adventure sins. Have you heard of those?
No? Yes? I've heard the term, I guess.
Well, there was this woman, and she worked with people with sensory issues. So maybe they couldn't see or hear, but they could smell. And she was gaming with them, and she was working with them, and she was like, "Oh, I'll start creating these scents so they can get that experience of gaming." And so she has this little business now where they have like all these different scents, so you could get like enchanted forest or dank dungeon, or like they have stuff specifically for Call of Cthulhu and Dungeons and Dragons and all those things.
A really interesting concept.
Yeah. So I decided I would buy a few of them just to check it out.
Yeah. I mean, what does an enchanted forest smell like?
It smells pretty awesome. This is it right here. Enchanting.
Can you smell the magic?
I can. Lee, I can't hear you if you're talking. Can you hear him, Alex?
Well,
easier to hear me now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, I have to be used to.
You're still a little broken there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we can hear you. You're not quiet. The problem is that you're constantly like breaking in and out.
Let me log off. Let me log off, and I'll log back.
All right.
Okay.
And then if you can't get it fixed, then me and Alex just make up whatever we think you were trying to say.
Yes. Summon the Bayaki?
I don't think that's what he said. I think he said, give over family fortune to Alex and Kyle.
What's that? You want our hospital now? Well,
Yeah, hold on. I need to get out in the nature and hike or
Oh, what the fuck? Alright,
what
no,
is with
not
your
that,
camera now?
not that camera. Hold on.
It's the
We want-
dreadful mist.
It looks like, yeah, it looks like black mist.
That's a pretty good DM GM thing right there you got going, Dad. You are the creepy
hold on.
interdimensional mist.
Let's take the tape off of this little bitch here.
Whoa, look at you.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it is. Now
Now
it just
you've
looks
got,
like
like,
you're in a
that,
smoky house.
Incredible stories filter over your face. I can't remember what the name of that show was. It was in the 80s, and they had some guy. He always had like they had so many filters over him. Ruth, the heap farts, thought it was just a normal night, but really, this was going to happen.
Was it like a crime show? Or was it
I don't
just
remember.
a
I
general
just remember-
incredible stories?
It was like an incredible stories.
There we go.
Oh, there he is.
Fucking genius.
What did it take to achieve genius levels?
I just clicked manage media settings in the freaking browser.
How is Mom managing to be louder than you are?
I know.
That sounds like that's going to require some hippie strength mace. I think you can get that thing under control real fast.
I'm just gonna have to. Angie, I'm going to mace you now.
Mace? Did you just say you're going to mace her?
I did. I said we were going to use hippie strength mace.
Oh.
Try to keep it down. Can you go in the other room or something?
We can
Thank you.
Like, this is one of those ones where they show up and they start swabbing your eyes with a like thick cotton swab. Like, you really want to get the hippies and just, you know, get in there.
Alright, that looks about right. Alright. I'm gonna bump up my volume a little bit. I'm coming through pretty clear on your end, Alex?
Yes.
Yes.
Very clear.
Okay, good. Alright.
It's Hail Manly. I like that name.
Hail Manly.
Oh, yeah, I decided that the name of my ambassador is going to be Hail Manly.
I wonder if he has anything to do with Mr. Manly.
Oh, yeah. That was our principal in high school.
I punched his daughter in the face when I was 8 years old. He called me to thank me.
Where's your incredible stories filter?
I don't know. I guess do I have to have one if I'm going to tell an incredible story?
Bump this up some more.
I also got in a lot of trouble for doing that, but I didn't know it was wrong to hit girls yet. But I found out on that one. Ooh,
Yeah.
not good.
You didn't know by 8 years old not to hit the principal's daughter?
No. She had it coming. He thanked me. Come on.
I wasn't afraid to hit anybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Okay, alright, so let's do this. Let's just take it over here for right now. Let's do
Like
some.
William. Kyle was like William Money. He'd hit women, children. He didn't care.
Yeah, he hit everybody.
I've hit everything one time or other in my life.
Pretty much.
Dogs, wildcats, owls, who knows?
So, let's do some skill checks here. Let's start with Yusufus.
Ooh.
So let's look what he's got here. So we're going to do a series of rolls for the check skills. We'll uncheck them as we go and see what you can do as far as increasing some of these. So the first one's anthropology at 0-1. That shouldn't be too hard to fail.
I will be
Okay,
utterly
so it's-
amazed if you fail this.
So / roll D1D100.
Just use the mac.
1D100, yeah.
Yeah, you can do it that way, or you can
also
just use the
click
macros.
the D100 thing.
Yeah, down at the bottom left there. All right, so that increases by a D10.
Okay. We'll just click this handy D10 button.
And this represents the knowledge you guys got from reading Nameless Cults, the Bridewell edition.
Oh! Very
Nice.
nice.
Oh well.
That goes up to 11.
That book changed my life.
I'll tell you what, all you guys, why don't you just all go ahead and start rolling for your stuff. You have to fail the skill roll to increase it to D10.
All right.
And I looked over everybody's sheets. They all should be right.
I was
Make
wondering.
sure you look at your hand-to-hand weapons down there too.
Yes.
So if you make it, what's the roll?
If you make the skill roll, you don't get any increase in it.
Right,
If you which means at or under your percentile, you'll make it if you're at or under.
Right,
If you
so
roll
basically
higher than your current value in the skill, then you get to increase it by D10.
So basically, we're aiming to fail.
You're aiming to fail the roll, yeah. So the higher your skill, the harder it is to increase. So you guys go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna get some coffee.
Oh, cool. You made coffee?
So are we just rolling to see if we fail, and then are we going ahead rolling the actual?
Yes.
And what's that number? What's the second number? How much can you
D10.
increase it?
D10.
D10. Okay. Oh, gee, so I only have one, so I guess as long as I roll over a 1, I'm good.
You rolled a 60, man. You're good.
D10.
Oh, wow. I totally missed on that history roll. Check that out.
Oh, 10. Sweet, sweet, sweet.
I know, man. The dice are 3. Okay, fuck you, dice. They weren't as good as I thought. But still.
Failed.
Library.
I won my
Can't wait.
history roll. Library use. Succeeded.
So this is library use. Missed that. Woohoo!
And anything else?
3. Another fucking 3.
What are
Sorry,
the?
it's still going up.
I guess I've
Before,
never
okay, so
used
that's
these macros before.
5.
Hey, I failed my fist punch roll.
No way. Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Yes.
Question. I know. Awesome. On a cult, that's checked, but should I be rolling for that one again? I feel like we.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
If it wasn't checked before, that was one of the skills that was checked from Nameless Cults.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
I actually made it, so I don't get to roll up on that. Boo. Oh. This is for sneak.
Okay, so I did miss that. Excellent.
31. I missed it. Woohoo! That one goes up. Two points on that. I like using the / roll better than the macros in the
Yeah.
character sheet. They tend to treat me a little better.
Yep.
Seems like.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
well, that's the way to go, then.
You can also just type /R.
Oh, okay. Let me try that.
Yeah, /R works. You don't have to type out roll.
Oh yeah, failed away.
Furthermore, you can even, if you just want to roll one die, you can even just type /RD100.
Yes, I missed my fist punch.
Shortcuts.
Shortcuts.
And uppercuts, too.
I love a good uppercut, as long as I'm the one throwing it.
Alright. I'll be right back.
Damn you! Oh well, these are all going up. This is all good. Just want wretched excess. Is it so wrong to want wretched excess? Yes.
No, it's a good thing in this game. All the help you can get.
I only managed to increase my punch, grapple, and anthropology checks. What was it that you said about learning a new language?
Yeah, I'll tell you guys that when you're done.
Nope.
I think I got all mine now.
Yeah, and then make sure everything's unchecked once you're done.
Yes, sir.
Right, so I add some stuff here under the journals tab. Under there's a book section and a spells section. So if we look at nameless cults here,
Oh, okay, cool.
it gives you kind of the general description at the top, and it actually says anyone. Other benefits and effects. Anyone making their way through the massive tome gains skill checks in anthropology, archaeology, history, and occult, which is what we just took care of. And it says, additionally, von Junst, who's the author, provides clues to interpreting the writings of Mu, Atlantis, and many others. 6 months of additional study, plus a successful intelligence roll, times 5 awards a beginning skill of 20 plus 1d10 percentiles in a chosen prehistoric or pre-human language.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. And then I went on to list the spells that you guys found in the book.
Which are also in our player journal.
Yeah, which are also in player journal. Call forth the woodland goddess, which nobody chose to learn that one. It's from the chapter on the fertility cult. Worshippers of the sign of the three-headed goat. Command the trees. Nobody learned that one. Contact brother. That was the chapter on the cult of cannibals and the Paris Underground. Nobody learned that one. Command airy travelers, which includes the enchant whistle spell. Jacob learned that one. And we need to talk a little bit about what entails creating an enchanted whistle.
Okay, so we have the enchant spell. We don't have the whistle. Gotcha.
Correct. And under the spell section here, it says it augments the caster's chance to command airy travelers. The spell enchants a whistle, which must be of an alloy of silver and iron meteorite. Huh.
Archaeological dig.
They're around.
Or
Meteorites are around.
yeah, or a B&E in a local museum or
private tour.
yeah.
I'm sure the Crown and Shields might be able to get a tour of one of the museums.
Mm-hmm.
A very, very private tour. At night.
Yeah. And you can
No one's
you
even
can
aware
maybe
of it.
yeah, you can maybe put your feelers out to see if you can find some iron meteorite.
Sean, well, when we get a chance, I'd like to talk a little bit about the oil for the elder symbol sign.
Sure. So the way the whistle works is when you create the whistle, you sacrifice power points that go into the whistle. Okay, in a day-long ceremony. A rooster must also be sacrificed.
Darn old roosters.
The ritual costs 1d4 sanity points. And for each point of power you sacrifice to put into the whistle, it adds 10 percentiles to the chance of successfully casting Commandery Travelers. And usually the way command or summon spells work is for each, I believe for each magic point that you use in the ritual, it gives you 10% chance of summoning it.
Gotcha.
So if you spent, 5 magic points, it give you a 50% chance. And say you had put 1 or 2 points of power into it, adds 10 percentiles per power.
Gotcha.
Now, Jacob, you don't really believe you can call aliens down with a magical whistle to take you into outer space, do you?
I don't discount anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Well, I don't want to see none of them airy travelers unless we got ourselves some protection.
Yeah, I believe the spell actually describes. It summons the airy The airy traveler will flap down out of the sky, still icy from space.
Oh,
So
I'm
you
sorry.
assume. So you assume that whatever it is comes from space.
They're not called airy travelers. They're called the unnameable.
No, that's incorrect. Actually, the airy travelers are described in nameless cults as being related to something called the unnameable.
Oh, it does say related to something called the unnameable.
I did. I edited that a little bit here and there.
Okay.
So yeah, there's some new information under books and spells there that you guys can take a look at.
Awesome.
So, like for instance, here in the Somerset tablets, I put the tablets were partially translated by Professor John Farnsworth of the British Museum, containing incantations and songs related to what's called the Dark Child, a malevolent spirit that appears to cause its chosen subject to go mad through dreams and hallucinations. The tablets were further translated by Colonel Percy Fawcett, an English explorer, and Eusebius Braun, an American war veteran and smuggler. The tablet contains rituals that allow for banishment of the Dark Child. These enchantments must be read directly from the text while the Dark Child is present. The translations also contain the normal and special versions of the Elder Sign spell. The special version requires that a certain oil be used in its casting. Fawcett and Braun's translations require 2d6 weeks of study to fully comprehend in order to learn the spells contained.
Mm-hmm.
So those, I know those then. So
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
we do know the Elder Sign.
Yes. Also,
The
as
banish.
well as banish Dark Child.
Right. Which.
But
go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
yeah, but it stipulates that the incantation has to be said in the presence of the Dark Child.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Hopefully, we already banished her, but I'm definitely keen on making sure I have everything available, or that time of year where I'm going to be, all that stuff. So,
Right. Yeah, I think it will around the month of June, when Aldebaran is in the right part of the sky. So yeah, you could, and it's something you probably often think about is, come June, the Dark Child may make
well,
a return or something.
and I'll share the story of Percy and Eusebius's first experience out in the woods, including our first encounter with the tree-hooved beast.
Yes.
And everything that really dragged us into this strange altered universe we're contending with now.
Right.
But around June, fellers, I may be enlisting your help to make sure we can put the Dark Child away. She certainly will try to come and kill me again.
Probably. Some bad blood. Oh, and also, I don't know if you noticed, but up at the top of the journal tab, there, right underneath the player's journal, is a book and spells index where there are links to all that stuff, all the books and spells that you guys have had contact with so far, for quick reference. So to recap, what happened at the end of the last session, it is I believe, April of 1923. Let me write this down here. April 1923.
Ooh.
And you guys have spent the last few months studying this nameless cult's book, and going through some therapy for your mental wounds that you sustained, and the whole Bendal Daloom affair, including some very lovely shock therapy for Edgar Casey. It cured him, though, right?
Yeah, I would say so, yes.
More or less. And it just recently, Jacob was contacted by a man who he knows, and we weren't specific about this last time. I just told you that it was a contact or whatever. But now you know his name is Dr. Edward Call, and he's right here. He was a friend of your father's.
Okay.
He's a physician, a prominent physician in the Boston area. And he was telling you about this new fraternal organization that's come to Boston. And it's called the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight. He says that its members are drawn from the city's upper crust, including several respected community leaders, including the mayor, I might add.
Oh, before we move along, Sean,
Sure.
I meant to touch on the obtaining the oil for the Elder Sign.
Right.
So there's all these wacky ingredients.
There are.
Yeah. So I
think all of the ingredients that are listed there are attainable. The only one that's not attainable is the dust.
Yes. The powder of Ibn Ghazi.
Yeah, the powder of Ibn Ghazi. All the other stuff we can find, but what is entailed in making that?
Yeah, no, that was the result of Edgar Casey's studies last session. He really kind of expounded on how to make this oil, and the only thing he couldn't figure out was what exactly this materia Ibn Ghazi was.
Yes. So that may take some further research to even find out what it is. All it says in Nameless Cults, or I'm sorry, the Somerset tablets, is that it's a silvery talc which may be used to render invisible creatures visible.
Now, Kyle found out that the ocean and Chango oils are actual, real, they're actual things.
All of these are actual things. I pulled them right from witchcraft recipes.
Yeah, see, and I think with most of those, like, if we found, like Lee was saying, like maybe an Asian, Chinese
apothecary,
alchemy store, or something like that, we could probably locate most of this. But I think if we can work in some research for the Benghazi, whatever that thing is, maybe we can pick some brains, do some library research, all that. See if we can dig up what that is along the way. Whatever is appropriate in the gameplay.
With Edgar's relative, with Edgar's general medical knowledge and occult knowledge, would he have any idea on at the very least, the nature or the origin or the anything at all about the ocean and Chango oil? Would I know whether or not it's a religious thing, whether it's a where I would get it? Would he understand what those are, or would he just read Chango oil? What is that?
Yeah, it would probably take some research. You may be able to find some information in Nameless Cults.
Okay, so no, Edgar would not have any idea.
No, not off the top of his head.
All right.
Actually,
so
is Farnsworth still alive, right?
Yeah, we talked to Farnsworth.
We already talked to him about where he got the oil from, because he was in possession of it.
Yes, he received it from Dr. Williamson.
Right.
Who who is no longer around.
He really isn't.
He is very dead indeed.
So when Dr. Call contacts me, does he come over to my residence?
Yes, he pays you a visit.
So I assume the other are present.
Yeah.
Okay, so I introduce everyone. Good friend, friend of the family, Dr. Call, respected physician. Let's all sit down. I have everybody sit down. I have the servants bring some brandies out.
Pleasure to meet
Okay.
you, Dr. Call.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Braun. And just to give you some information, Jake, about what you know about him, you know that he was trained at King's College. He's always been a bit of an Anglophile.
Of course.
He usually wears a tweed suit with waistcoat and tie. He's mostly bald, with brown hair around the fringe. He wears thick wire-framed eyeglasses. And you know him usually to be in great good humor.
Is he politically connected? He is, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely he is.
Okay.
And he had a riding accident some years ago that gave him a slight limp in his left leg. And every time you see him, he almost always mentions how much he misses horseback riding. But he tells you about this fraternal organization. He says, yes, they've erected a fine new lodge hall just across the Charles in Cambridge. And they have a growing reputation for discussions of philosophy and politics and other important matters in a congenial atmosphere of brotherhood. He says, I've been over there,
Really?
And he says, yes, it's although I must say that during my recent visit, says everyone was friendly and well-spoken. Many who have joined are very well off, it seems. And I can tell you, they're all of high intelligence, too. I came away with a most favorable impression of the order. And the sort of quality person who they want to be a member. Yet, I found it to be an odd place, he says.
Odd? How?
Well, there are many more employees than seem to be necessary. And they're not necessarily of the best sort, if you catch my meaning.
Ruffians or immigrants?
Oh, foreigners mostly.
Foreigners.
Whereabouts?
What kind of foreigners?
Yeah.
African foreigners?
Yes, some appear to be possibly African, perhaps Arab. I don't know for sure. He says there's also entire floors of the building that are sealed off, even from the prospective members. Perhaps even the initiates of the order. And the place just has about it an air of unusual secrecy, he says.
Now, are we talking like Freemasonry here, or?
No, well, possibly, he says. He says, I didn't get that sense. I think they are more of a esoteric or hermetic variety of men.
Well, Doctor, it sounds like you're a good judge of character and situation. I mean, you've been a esteemed surgeon for how many years? I think what you say is there's the appearance of everything's fine, but there's something
odd.
like sitting with you, right? Correct?
Something odd about this place.
You reckon we ought to go over and maybe have a look for ourselves, Dr. Call?
Just yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. Most of the gentlemen at the club are very nice fellows. There's just an air of secrecy about them. And the man who runs the place, his name is Carl Stanford. I find it odd that among a group of gentlemen who are more aged, shall we say, that Mr. Stanford is the one in charge. He's a young man, perhaps in his early 30s, and his and another man. His name is John Scott, who is quite an odd fellow, I must say. He has these piercing eyes that make me uncomfortable.
His eyes are side goggling.
Yes, I suppose you could say that.
Considering the men that are involved, these men of relative high standing, high, community. What's known about these? What's known about Stanford and this other gentleman?
I don't really know. This is something very new to me, Jacob.
Yeah,
as you know, I'm retired and I don't like to spend much time at home. And I no longer ride horseback. Unfortunately, I've told you of my accident several years ago. So
unfortunate.
So I try to find ways to fill my time. The wife doesn't like me at home very much. And I should also note that you guys did some preliminary when, let's say, Dr. called, when he actually called you on the phone to tell you he wanted to come over, he mentioned this place too. And you guys did a little bit of preliminary research on this place. You found at the library in the public records there was no Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight appearing in any standard list of fraternal organizations in the public records. And also, I think one of you found an obscure and rather weird book on demonology mentioning a group called the Knights of the Silver Twilight.
Right.
Also, maybe most significantly, Jacob, I believe, you found a narrative written by a man named Clyde Whipple. It was a slim volume written in longhand. And what struck you about this, it's an old record from 1721. And you found this book in kind of an out of the way place among the shelves in the colonial Massachusetts section of the library.
Right.
And the book is written in longhand, and it tells of a vigilante raid on the farm of a John Scott in 1721. And the writer, whose name is Clyde Whipple, was one of the armed men who led the attack. And he describes weird sounds and chants that they and their families heard at night, the disquieting foreigners who began to gather in the area, and the predations of local grave robbers. And Whipple just kind of offhandedly mentions how horrified many of them were by what they saw during the raid, although he doesn't go into detail about what they saw. He also discusses, and this is something that that I didn't tell you last session, he also discusses the whereabouts of John Scott's farmhouse.
Ooh, there we go.
And you realized shortly thereafter, after looking at perhaps a map, in your map room at the Crown and Shield Manor,
Next to the gift wrapping room.
you realized that the Order's new lodge hall was built where John Scott's farmhouse once stood.
Okay, well that's and the gentleman that Call met, there was a Stanford, and who was the other guy?
John Scott.
Okay.
Somebody's breathing into their mic.
Yeah, somebody's got their mic.
Is that me?
Yeah, stop breathing.
Don't stop breathing. Please don't stop breathing.
I repositioned my headset for a second.
Well,
Well, it wouldn't take too much to think of some proper men getting in over their heads on some of this business, as we've seen.
I bring that information to the attention of the group as we sit around. I'm like, here's some details I uncovered. I asked the doctor. I'm like, so you have a lot of free time in your hands, huh, doctor?
More than I can bear, my friend.
Well, I think maybe you should worry here. Seems like there might be something to investigate here.
Yes, he says, well, I myself have not yet been initiated into the order. Initiate ceremonies every Tuesday evening at the lodge. I planned on going next Tuesday just to see what all of this hubbub is about.
Do you know anyone that's joined the order?
Not personally, no. Except for the mayor. I do know the mayor a bit in passing.
The mayor. The mayor's joined the Order of the Silver Twilight.
Yeah?
All right.
I just think it's very interesting that here we have this document from the 1700s that's talking about this event occurred, and now these guys have built this. Or was the building already existing, Sean? The one that was there?
It's a relatively new construction
Construction.
within the last 6 or 7 years.
Way back.
I think we need.
They
I
have the
think
full
we need to try to do some serious library and public record work on this on the John Scott. I mean, as far as like
I agree.
Oh,
both from the 1700s all the way. Let's start in the 1700s and see what we can find on him, and then move up. Looking at the property especially.
And also, we should probably see if they filed any building plans for this. Perhaps even the work crews that were involved with it would be good people to talk to.
Good call.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Call says that, well, it is a bit odd that the organization is not listed in the public records. He also says, I do kind of see what you're saying, Jacob, with the farmhouse, the location matching up and everything, but certainly you don't think, well, it'd be impossible. Perhaps this John Scott that was talked about by this Mr. Clyde Whipple was a distant relative or forebear of this John Scott?
Well,
Yes,
absolutely.
If that's the case, maybe he's back to start up his ancestors' tawdry, unhealthy, in our fine city. That can't be tolerated. Now, if he's on the up and up, of course, it'll be fine. There'll be no problems. But something like this shouldn't be just ignored.
My goodness. You're not saying that this could be a coven of witches or something?
Possibly. Recent experience.
Dr. Call goes a little pale at that.
Drink your brandy.
He says,
"Here, have a little more. Have a little more brandy."
I clink my glasses. Dr. Call. This will take the edge off that, Dr. Call.
Oh, Jacob, I never knew you to be interested in things having to do with the occult and witches and such.
Well, I mean, I think we're all community here. We certainly, and we have had instances before, of course, come in, and you have to address them appropriately, which may not be the case here at all, and I certainly hope it isn't.
I'll drink to that, he says.
It is, you have to admit, it is quite a coincidence.
It is quite a coincidence, yes.
And where there's smoke, there's fire. We'll see. It'll be fun finding out, won't it, Doctor?
Could be. He says. He says another thing I found unusual. Not only that foreigners seem to be employed there, the surly and seedy sort, but apparently they don't restrict their membership to whites, nor to only Americans.
What did you say?
He says,
You just said-
I'm not going to be political. It's 1923, guys. I can't be politically correct. Okay.
Jacob is astonished and horrified.
He says they don't restrict its membership to whites, nor to only Americans. He says Europeans are accepted much more readily, of course, than foreigners of dark skin. At least this is what I've been told. He says, of course, among its members, the usual, intolerance is present, of course. But he says, I found it. Here, actually, and he pulls out a little flyer, and it says Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, Tuesday evenings, and all this kind of stuff. And it says on there, all men of human blood and mind are considered equally humble in the eyes of our Lord.
Well,
we can certainly use this to our advantage.
what about women? Do they allow women into the order?
No, they do not allow women into the order. They do have an auxiliary, sort of a sorority for wives and such.
Yeah, that's not unusual with a lot of fraternal orders.
He says, the sorority, the auxiliary does a lot of charity work. Like they have an annual former Christmas dance. They're also involved with the Boston Red Sox, and they do charities with the team. And there's a spring picnic coming up, and so they do a lot of charity work, usually through their auxiliary. With this sorority of wives and women, but they do not allow women as official members. No.
Yeah, but speaking to the times, just the fact that they allow non-whites and non-Americans would really outrage a lot of people in Boston. And I will tell you that it would not take a lot to get a mob together.
Yeah.
With that kind of information and storm down there and burn the whole place to
We've already got our backup plan if we can't do it ourselves.
Yeah, and this is why Dr. Call mentions it, and he says, there's some seedy sorts down there, mostly employees, but also some of the members appear to be not only European, but perhaps Arabic or Africans as well.
I think probably do it right away, but we might want to take some of this information and just put it on their radar.
To the who?
Law enforcement.
Okay.
The Boston police.
Yeah.
And say, hey, just to let you know, here's this flyer. You see this going on down. This is not. But I don't know if we want to do that immediately.
Sure.
Right, but that's something we should definitely.
Yeah.
They'll be down there with their own mob and torches.
Yeah, but don't forget also the mayor's involved at this stage too. So.
Oh, that is true. We don't want to
you would have to. Well, you'd have to get it into the hands of the right person.
Well, I think if Jacob, if you've got some contacts over there, I know as my background wouldn't allow me that kind of access.
Right.
But you may wish to reach out to them and just make sure they're still in your pocket. So
yeah, we'll do some research first. Like I said, I like to do some public records and some searching on this particular the John Scott and
to the library.
All right.
So the Knights of the Silver Twilight, since that was actually mentioned.
Yeah, the Knights of the Silver Twilight was mentioned in a book in demonology.
Okay. Then I guess.
Any reference to that nameless cults, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I guess our first line of investigation would actually be to see if it's in Nameless Cults, because Nameless Cults has that really cool feature that allows us to look for specific cults or occult knowledge in the book itself, because it's pretty comprehensive.
Go ahead and roll. Somebody reference Nameless Cults and see if you can find something.
Can I do
Who's
it?
got the? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Just straight up 12%, no matter who does it. So.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, totally cool.
Oh man! It was almost a 12.
That was so close, dude.
That die is cocked. You got cocked on Edgar's token.
Yeah, it did.
In physics.
It's one of the most painful dice rolls yet.
Oh.
God damn, man.
Maybe you can find something at the library.
Okay.
So today is Sunday, April 8th, 1923. My birthday. And as I said, Dr. Call let you guys know that on Tuesday evenings they have sort of an open house where, you know, he tells you you can consider yourselves invited by me. You know, Dr. Call says he'll be present on Tuesday. So it's Sunday morning.
I asked the doctor this. I say, are you intending on becoming an initiate, though?
Oh, possibly. I think I might hang around there a bit more before I decide.
Yeah, definitely do that. Don't initiate yet. Hang around. We'll come over with you, and we'll be very casual. Of course, no mention of our conversation.
Of course.
So we.
He does. Before he leaves, he does tell you guys there are apparently 3 degrees within the order. There is neophyte, initiate, and master. That's all he knows. And he said, from what he understands, that the candidates are taken to some preparation room and they go through some ritual, and maybe similar to the Masonic rituals. You know, he says to Edgar in this regard, where they give you certain colored robes. I think he says neophytes wear black robes and initiates wear gray robes, and the masters wear white robes. And from what I understand, speaking to one of the other members, the candidates are blindfolded and given a lecture on the noble purposes of the order, and that they will learn great and mysterious things, and be asked to bind you'll be asked to bind yourself with an oath, and so on and so forth. But you know, this kind of thing is not too unusual for fraternal organizations. It very well may be some sort of Masonic order. I don't know.
Let's hope
Yes.
it's not some shade from the past.
God knows we don't need another witch hunt in this day and age.
In our fine city. Well,
Okay. So let's do a little research, shall we?
yeah.
Indeed. I suppose we should start by looking at the leader of the organization, Mr.
Carl Stanford with a C.
Carl Stanford. Carl Stanford and his accomplice,
It's
the other guy.
yeah, Scott. Yeah, John Scott's the guy that's mentioned in the document from the 1700s. That's the guy whose property it is.
Correct.
The,
I'll just put these guys' tokens up here so you can remember their names and stuff.
All right. John Scott and Carl Sanford.
Very friendly looking fellow, isn't he?
Carl certainly is.
John Scott looks like he might be a crazed Bible salesman.
Right. Let's see if we can.
Alright, so let's do some library use rolls. You guys are pouring through some. You guys are kind of, all of you. You guys are looking for, looking through newspaper archives, mostly. Maybe some other public records, maybe some of the other sections on occult and mysticism. Just seeing what you guys can find.
I succeed.
Ooh!
Okay.
Awesome. Sorry, I'm really excited.
nope.
It's wandering into the Curious George section of the library for exchange.
Okay, so as library, Fist made his library.
Yes. I'm as shocked as you are.
The doctor is the surely
No, the doctor.
failed.
He had to go get drunk down at the local pub.
Okay.
It's my time to go get drunk, fellas. Goodbye.
Bye.
Roll a spot hidden for Jacob.
Yes, which edition of Curious George did he find?
First edition.
It's the
Super
Clifford the
rare.
Big Red Dog crossover. Compelling.
Did you roll spot hidden? Lee, roll spot hidden for Jacob. You guys rolls, by the way.
Oh, yay. Thanks for reminding me.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Very good. Jacob.
Is Dad's voice robot-y for anyone else, or is it just me?
Is my
Just-
voice robot?
Just to you, I think.
It's just
Okay.
you.
Yeah, it's probably the network.
Hello.
Hello.
It's still
That should be
kinda,
better.
still kinda
Hello.
robot-y.
Still a
but
little.
alright.
Yeah. Oh, hey, dude. Oh, they added a latency bar. Oh, there we go. That should be better. Latency little bar thing there. Why's my latency so bad? Hang on.
Probably because we're on the same network, and probably Nick is also on the network, and also Mom and our everyone. Everyone is using our network at once. On the whole street.
Yeah, you got people ripping bandwidth.
All right, let's start with Jacob. Jacob,
Yes.
you're looking through some newspaper articles, and you're not really finding anything, so you decide to go even further back. Okay, you find an article just by sheer luck, dated about 80 years ago. So like what, 1840 something,
Okay.
and an article that says that a Carl Sanford is being sought for questioning in the missing infant. And I'll show you the article here.
A Carl Stanford?
Yep.
Yeah, so here it is right here. It says,
No.
is this the right one? Yeah. Infant still missing, mother prostrate. And this is from like June 18. It says, authorities seeking young Aaron O'Malley, age 6 months today, broadened their search for the missing, a warrant of arrest for one Carl Sanford. So Carl Stanford, his first name's spelled with a C, but this just kind of catches your attention because it says Carl Sanford of 18 Tremontaine Close, whereabouts presently unknown. Neighbors give contradictory descriptions of Sanford and have little to report of him except for his disagreeable demeanor and secretive behavior. Lieutenant of Detectives Beneke urges all who know of this man to step forward and to do their duty by city and commonwealth. Any Boston policeman will direct the inquiring citizen to Lieutenant Beneke. Friends and family report that Mrs. O'Malley is prostrate with grief and begs whomever has taken the infant to return her with the blessings of God. So it may or may not have anything to do, with Carl Stanford, but it's just something that kind of catches your eye.
It's listed there. The
Yes.
18 Tremont Close.
Tremontaine.
Yeah, I'll do a little more investigation on that address. I'll share that address with the article.
Okay.
I'll say maybe we should, and I'll also name as Carl Sanford.
Okay. Does not take much, but indeed, in the old public records, you find that at this address, indeed, lived a Carl Sanford during the 1840s. So you confirm that there was a Carl Sanford that lived at this address during the 1840s.
When did he,
Um,
when did the occupancy of the house change?
during the 1850s.
I guess the baby was never found.
Hard to say. Eusephus,
Yes.
you find in a fairly recent New York newspaper an advertisement for a businessman's motivational group called Look to the Future. And the newspaper's dated about a month ago. And tell me if you noticed anything unusual about it. It says, motivate your employees, inspire yourself. Look Future and Carl Stanford this week present B. Ramsdell Brown, Profits in Your Own Backyard. We are the businessman's friend. Meeting and coffee every Monday morning, 50 cents. The crullers are on us. And it gives a New York address.
Wow.
Oh.
Do I notice anything queer about this? Well, guess this guy's
only that
traveling around a
Carl,
lot.
maybe it's the same Carl Stanford, maybe it's not. It's hard to say, right?
I mean,
How long would it take? Could that be a day trip?
Mm-hmm.
What's
It's
the
a-
address there?
It's in
New
New
York
York
address?
City, right?
Yes, it's in New York City.
So, yeah, we could probably take. So I tell look at this here, fellas. This Carl Stanford, he's a busy baby stealing businessman.
If indeed it's the same,
no.
if it's the same Carl Stanford, I mean, it's a fairly common name.
Oh,
But it
come
just-
on now.
You're looking through these New York newspapers to see any mention of Carl Stanford, John Scott, Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, missing infants or whatever, and you just come across this advertisement, in the community section of the newspaper that has his name on it for this Look to the Future organization, whatever it is.
I do agree. It does seem unlikely. But my recent experience has shown me that unlikely just may be the answer.
Back in 5th grade, I knew a man named Carl Stanford, but I didn't accuse him of being a baby stealer.
What? Edgar's still a little,
Duly noted.
That was the good Carl Stanford, Edgar. And Carl Stanford.
Well, if nothing else, we'll
Edgar,
get ourselves a nice trip down to New York City.
Maybe it's the
Edgar-
same one.
Edgar, you find an article in the Boston Globe, dated only a couple of weeks ago, that mentions the order. It's really not what you would expect.
I don't think anything so far has been quite expected.
It says, Cambridge man missing. Police today sought the information from the public concerning the puzzling disappearance of Mr. James Clark from his home at 1312 Newton Circle, Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is in your neighborhood. He was last seen at home by his wife at about 10 o'clock Monday night. Mr. Clark is of medium build, brown hair, 34 years of age. An omnibus driver reports seeing a passenger resembling Mr. Clark headed towards Boston at about 2:30 in the morning. Mr. Clark keeps a law office in Boston. And at the end it says he is a public-spirited, outgoing personality, friends at Masonic Hall and at the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight expressed dismay when apprised of his disappearance.
Now, see, I told you this may be a Mason thing. Man was a
certainly-
Freemason.
Yeah, certainly Mr. Clark had Masonic connections.
Yeah, well, I'm a Freemason too, so I mean, he would be. He's a Freemason. Crown and Shield will definitely be a Freemason.
Ah.
More than likely.
What if the Freemasons are the direct enemies of the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight?
We can only hope.
We can align another group for the angry mob.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one more here.
We did all seem to find something. That's pretty good.
So Lee, from this handwritten journal that you found, written by Clyde Whipple, kind of leads you to believe that maybe there's something more. more to find on this Clyde Whipple character, and what happened back in 1721 when they raided this John Scott's home or whatever.
Is he
And
is he an
indeed,
official?
Clyde Whipple, you have no idea who Clyde Whipple is.
Okay.
You just found some handwritten document by him. And it was very short, and he just kind of described the raid on the farm of John Scott in 1721. But you find a feature article dated 20 years ago. It was in the Boston Globe, discussing notorious local witches of the 17th and 18th century. And among them is, quote, John Scott, a reputed warlock whose farm was destroyed by an angry mob. And
Right, man.
and it goes on to say, I'll bring this up for you too.
Wow, so this guy's lost 2 farms.
Don't loan him money for a farm.
Boston witches recalled by historian. These benighted individuals seem to their fellow colonists to be hostile to the very tenets of Christianity, and transcripts from the era of the witch trials document their confidence in their own dark powers. Though they are often put on trial, and alarmed citizenry sometimes rose up against them without the benefit of lawful arrest or trial, as happened to the Cambridge area warlock John Scott in 1721. Scott was attacked and captured, found guilty of witchcraft by acclamation, burned alive in an enormous bonfire, and buried in an unmarked, unhallowed grave, all on the same day before 7 o'clock in the evening. Neighbors swore he had created monsters and brought the dead to life in secret caverns located on his farm. His farm would be fascinating to explore, but unfortunately, its precise location has been lost for centuries.
Well, I think we know where it is now.
That's some crazy stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And it even came with its own scary music.
So that's quite a discovery there.
Created monsters brought the dead to life in secret caverns located on his farm. Yusufus thinks about stroking a piece of dynamite.
Yeah.
Death caverns of the the
Overconfident warlocks.
yes.
They probably
Okay.
talked about themselves in the third person.
I
John
believe it's-
Scott will cast a spell on you.
John Scott raises dead. John Scott has Big Burn Farm.
I wonder if the 7 o'clock is important. Like they had to do it before a certain time.
I'm going to be back in just a minute, guys. Hold on.
Sure.
Unacceptable. We don't approve.
Oh, this stupid mouse. Stop it.
That
Are you trying to?
Jesus,
trying to
dude, what are you doing?
trying to fix that like the Fonz?
It's
Like hitting
scrolling.
the top of the.
It's scrolling itself. Stop. God damn it. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Well, can't have my mouse.
I guess Lee times his departure right on at a good moment.
Yeah. It's right on time.
All right, well then now we've got plenty of time to make up other stuff that John Scott, the overconfident warlock, would say. In third person, just like Caesar.
Here, let's go to one of these copy of character sheet. Let's edit it. Name John Scott, the overconfident warlock.
One time, John Scott.
And there's one more when Lee gets back.
All right, man. This has been a
You vulture it. What?
bonanza of information.
Right. So you begin digging deeper. Okay. You stay into the night. The library closes But Jacob, you kind of go up, go up to the librarian and say, "Hey, we're doing this stuff, and we need a little more time." And then she
Right.
gives you a little bit of little shit, and then you palm her a $20 bill, and she's like, "Okay, we're open for another couple hours."
Yeah.
So you decide, finding this Boston Witches Recalled by Historian article, kind of touching upon what Clyde Whipple said. You find, where do you find this? Give me a second. You find another book on the occult in the mysticism section. And it actually, towards the back of the book, you notice the name Clyde Whipple. And it starts talking about this man who attended this raid on this farm and stuff. And it's a very interesting read. And I'll just give you some excerpts from it here. Oh, where'd you go? Come this way.
When did the Cambridge man go missing?
That is dated. Just within the last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, geez.
So, at the end of March, last week of March. So you find in this book on the occult more on the narrative of Clyde Whipple.
Wow.
And part of it is part of a cultist speech overheard and quoted by some of these men who lived in the Cambridge area back in the early 1700s. And the quotes from the speech say, "Do you dare imagine things as they can be, as indeed they will be when the earth is transformed and the illusion of reality is erased from the minds of men by the annihilation of those minds? Do you live in hope to see great Cthulhu striding the earth? Do you dream of the throne of Sothoth, of joining the flutists who dance there forever? Oh, purify yourselves then, for these and greater things await you who are members of our terrible order." There's also and it goes on. This kind of paraphrases what's written. You find a section where Whipple seems to locate the farmhouse beneath which there were caverns. Whipple writes, "Scott's farmhouse stood just 100 rods north of the old Anglican graveyard near the Cambridge Road. That cemetery was later moved nearer to the bay." And lastly, you find a part of Whipple's narrative where they seem to find caverns beneath Scott's farm. Redoubled in their volume, it says, "The noisome complaints bit so grimly at our hearts that we feigned retreat from the cavern so that we might reload our weapons in semblance of order. Our minds determined, we returned and volleyed into those horrors, then held up our lamps in survey. Men with many heads, men with twisted features, things with the features of frogs and upright demons, twisted and died, loosing a stinking exudate. Others whined and fruitlessly tugged against their chains. We silenced them all."
I like this man Whipple's methods.
Yeah. They knew how to get rid of stuff in the 1700s, man.
Right. But according to that one account, they stormed the farm, burned him at the stake, and buried him all in the same day. That's all it is.
It was like an Amish barn raising, but just different task at hand.
Right.
A different kind of barn raising, really.
So that's about all. So that's about all you find.
The old Anglican graveyard, we definitely need to locate that on a map, on an old historical map, and overlay that with the location of this current.
Yes, you do. You find some public records that seem to correspond with what Whipple was saying here. Indeed, where the lodge is currently located, and that was the location of Scott's farmhouse in 1721. There was an old Anglican graveyard, and you do find that the graveyard itself was moved to an area closer to the bay.
The location of the
graveyard was moved in the 1780s sometime.
Is the original location anywhere near where this Hermetic order is set up now?
The original location of the graveyard? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you find public information that correlates to what Whipple says here. That Scott's farmhouse was very near this old graveyard in the 1720s, but that it was later moved in the 1780s from that location.
The speech makes Edgar think back to the wizard in the Dreamlands.
Yeah, the speech is rather striking, isn't it? It seems to mirror in some ways some of the writings that you've found in von Junt's nameless cults. Words like Cthulhu and Azathoth.
Yeah, I hate to go down. I hate to go down this path, but can I take a look at anything in this library that might have anything to do with mentions of Great Cthulhu?
In the Boston Library?
In the Boston Library, the good old-fashioned public records.
Yeah, hold on, guys. I'll be right back.
Sure. Let's try something.
Hey, quick question.
Yeah.
The location of this Hermetic order now.
Mm-hmm.
What's around that?
It is the upscale area of Cambridge, Massachusetts, just across the Charles River. So it's in a very upscale part of town.
Okay, and the original farmhouse, where is that in location to that? Or is it the same place?
Same place.
Same place.
Same exact place.
Oh, okay.
What I missed?
We have just confirmed that the current location of the Hermetic Order's lodge exactly corresponds to the location of John Scott's farm in 1721. It is currently, the lodge is in a very upscale part of town in Cambridge, which is on the outskirts of Boston, I believe, just across from the Charles River. And it's, a very, very expensive upscale part of town. It's down there with all the other brick mansions down there,
right.
The red brick mansions.
So if we take the location of this building, and we do 100 rods north of that, what's standing there now?
Well, you probably have to go down there and check it out. Oh, what's standing there now? According to your maps, it's really just it's a residential neighborhood now. It's all residential.
No. Okay.
I mean, the old location of the graveyard, 100 rods, I think. I think a rod is roughly like a yard or something, right?
Right.
So, maybe 2-3 streets away from the lodge house is where the graveyard originally stood. And it's all just neighborhoods now. It's all residential neighborhood. What significance the graveyard has, it's hard to say.
Well, I mean, the significance would be this John Scott guy, or his ancestor, was reputed to have been associating with grave robbers and also supposedly raised the dead. So of course he'd want to have a graveyard nearby so that he could do his necromancy and robbery.
Yeah,
on that point,
Whipple did mention grave robbery back then too.
On that point, man, we'll take a look to see if there's been any such behavior going on lately.
Not that you can find. No,
Well,
not that you can find.
I mean, we can always go down to the graveyard itself, but I think. I mean, we have an important.
What's the closest graveyard?
To the graveyard.
To the farmhouse or
to the lodge.
Location. Yeah,
That'd probably be St. Mary's.
And this is still Sunday?
Late Sunday night, yes.
Sunday night.
The librarian's getting very impatient.
One question.
I slip her another 20. Say, go shut your mouth and sit down.
One question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Carnichiel.
Do we want to go down to this meeting on Monday morning? Because if we're
I
going
thought
to
it was
do that,
Tuesday.
Yes,
it's Tuesday.
Tuesday evening
is the open house in Boston.
Yes.
Monday morning is the New York City event.
Oh,
which is tomorrow.
I don't think we should bother with that one. That one seems way too normal.
I would say, well, we've got a lot of coincidences going on here, gentlemen, and it wouldn't be too hard for somebody to go down there. I'll volunteer to just head down there for the morning and then come back.
And I whip my head around alone?
If you want to head down there for the morning, and then come back and possibly go on a recon of the graveyard.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that. The only issue is let's try not to kind of issue at this meeting if possible.
Well, I think more than anything else, I just want to observe the coming and going to the folks who are there. I don't really want to go to the meeting. I just want to see who's there and see who shows up to the other meeting on Tuesday.
Here we go, splitting the party.
From what I understand, Eusephus is some sort of businessman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You've understood correctly, sir.
No,
and I think that you'll do absolutely fine. And
we should all go down together.
But there's so much to look at. We should talk to the locals that live directly around, or the establishment owners that live directly around the order house itself, and we should probably also check out this farm. I don't know if we should go and just say to these people, let's be initiates this Tuesday. I think that would be rather hasty.
Well, I
think Tuesday it's an open house kind of thing. It's not fully for just initiations. It's just kind of like it's a meet and greet for the freaks.
Yeah. It's not necessarily Dr. Call gave you the impression it's not necessarily open to the public, but since Dr. Call, was there and sort of invited you, it would be okay.
Yeah,
you guys
we're his invited guests.
Yes.
Well, yes, but the more we know, the better. The more we can go. Whoa, somebody's headphones just got.
Yeah. Picking up all kinds of good news in the background.
Somebody's headphones.
Not me, is it? I don't hear anything.
Oh, not anymore.
Good now.
It's gone
Okay.
now.
Okay. Anyways, so where was I?
Basically, there's a couple things we can do. We can go to New York.
Right.
The graveyard.
Yep.
We'll be checking out the farmhouse or the farm location on Tuesday because we'll be going to the actual building.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be going on there.
And we'll be back.
And it is a farm, so I guess nobody lives around it.
Well, no, it's the farm's gone. The farm's no longer there. The lodge has been built on top of the location.
Right, but I'm saying that the building itself doesn't have neighboring buildings.
I don't know. Let me look something here. Yeah.
He just got really loud on me or something here.
I did.
Yeah.
It's probably 11 p.m. Sunday night. It's about a 5-hour drive.
Ooh.
to New York. So you would be able to make it in time for the meeting. You'd be awful freaking tired by the time you got there, though. I mean, you'd have to pull an all-nighter to do it.
We
I
might
don't
want
think
to.
it's wise.
We might want to skip that and hit the graveyard early. You know, at first light. Do a little
Yeah.
recon and see if there's been anything disturbed there, and then what we want to do after that.
Does
I mean,
St.
you don't
Mary's-
want to fight Shoggoths on no sleep, you know.
Yeah.
Is St. Mary's also a church?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a Catholic church.
Yeah, well, we can always go next Monday if we still have a notion to go.
Yeah, if we still have a brain. I think that sounds good. We can reconvene at the graveyard in the morning.
You guys are happy to stay at the Crown and Shield Manor if you want.
Oh, I'm definitely
Plenty of
staying at the
rooms.
Crown and Shield Manor.
Plenty of liquor and cigars and
Well, that's a mighty kind offer of you.
library. We stay together. Safety in numbers. You know,
It's the training wheels for the club we're setting up.
the bars propped in the corner.
Excellent. All right, so you guys are visiting St. Mary's Cemetery in the morning. Is that
Yes. Yes, we
We'll
are.
get up and eat a hearty breakfast and head out to the cemetery.
Okay. So you guys wake up. It's a fine sunny morning, April 9th. And
Do we need to tell you what we're carrying?
that would be a good idea.
Do you need just in case some?
Yeah, if you can just give me a general idea of what you're bringing with you. By the way, Lee, Jacob has two vehicles. He has a very nice.
Okay. I can't wait to hear what it is now.
Very nice Packard Twin 6 Touring, which is a basically like a limousine, more or less.
Sweet.
It's a 12-cylinder engine. It's very powerful, very stylish, very comfortable, very fast. You also own a Dodge 3/4-ton DC pickup, which, if you can imagine what a pickup truck looks like in 1923, it's more or less a car, but it's got a large rear end on it that's enclosed. It's not like an open pickup, but it's for hauling shit or whatever you want to do.
Right. Well, at this stage, I say we take the limo, but I definitely throw some stuff in the trunk.
Okay. What you guys bringing with you?
In the trunk, I'll definitely throw the bar.
The Cthulhu kit?
Yeah, my general pack, rope, oil,
I'll do the
all that
same.
kind of stuff.
The
By the way,
typewriters
way-
in the bag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys recovered all your firearms there, didn't you? That's right.
On me, I'll keep my my 45 automatic and my knife.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. I was just gonna say on my person, I've got the handgun and the commando knife somewhere inconspicuous on my person.
And
All right. Is Edgar bringing anything special?
You can throw whatever you want in the trunk of the car and carry what you want on you.
well,
Oh, and also, Lee, while I'm looking at it here, I don't know if you noticed this, but you, Jacob Cronenshield, own three properties. You own the Cronenshield Manor in Boston. You also have a 400-acre farm and hunting lodge near Medicine Bow, Wyoming. And you also have a 40-acre estate on the French Riviera.
That
Oh.
is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
What is it? Medicine Bone, Wyoming?
Medicine
Wow.
Bow, Wyoming. It's out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
That's some serious properties. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The French Riviera, huh?
Yeah, in Marseille.
How many?
Wow.
He has 400 acres out there.
400 acres. Yeah. And it's a
dang it,
farm.
Lee,
You
buy
know,
an airplane.
You have, friends of a friend of the family or whatever. You can make up his name or whatever. He runs a farm for you out there. It's like a horse farm, And you go out there maybe a couple times a year to do some hunting, hunt some elk or whatever.
Awesome.
Wait,
Here, we could go just duplicate this in real life. We could buy 35.26 acres for $19,900 today. Boom!
Yeah. And I'm not sure how often you get to France, but it's there.
it's nice to know that's a location to retreat to. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's probably where you keep your boat too. You've got a
Right.
40-foot Muter yacht out there.
But what about his airplane?
I didn't get an airplane. You could easily buy one, I'm sure.
We need
Anyway,
to get.
what's Edgar bringing? Edgar bringing anything?
I don't think Edgar's. I mean, a shovel. A shovel. We're bringing a shovel.
Hey,
Bring a shovel to the
Does he-
cemetery. Okay.
I'll bring a shovel and a pack of crumpets.
Hold on. What kind of? I pause. I'm like, what kind of weapons? What kind of weapons do you have?
Weapons.
Yes, weapons.
Well,
His mind.
My razor sharp wit,
Right.
a deadly meatloaf casserole I like to make.
One's equipped. The second one, I'm not sure if you have it concealed on your person.
I don't really. Nobody really ever showed me how to use a weapon, and I kind of look down at the Thompson machine gun in the trunk.
Yeah.
Do either of you?
Does he have a pistol skill or a rifle skill?
No, I mean he's a Kentucky gentleman. Okay, if anything, maybe he's done some rabbit hunting in his youth. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't really own any. I don't really own. I might own a shotgun back home.
Yeah.
So the shovel was the perfect choice.
Okay, I see. All right, understood.
I just didn't think it was. I just didn't think it was appropriate for Edgar Casey to own a gun of any kind.
Well,
really.
he is a Kentucky gentleman, so
Like a I can see him owning like a little Derringer or something like that.
yeah. For when a poker game goes wrong.
At the most, I could see him owning a shotgun.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Jacob has a pretty massive gun collection. So.
Well, Jacob, would you rather me go grab one of your shotguns?
Like, yeah, that's what you're most comfortable using, a shotgun. I'll grab a nice.
So something concealable might be more appropriate since you're traveling city.
I don't have much
then
experience
just
with a
use
handgun.
He can use my street clear if he wants. My sawed-off shotgun. There's really no aiming to this one at all, Mr. Case.
Sure, just make sure.
You see this, Kyle? The Thompson anti-bandit gun. Here's the gun that bandits fear most.
Damn straight.
There's a link there to Dropbox if you want to look at the weapons charts.
That's pretty cool.
It's the safest gun for a policeman, sheriff, or guard to handle. The absolute safest gun.
I'm sure I have a sawed-off double barrel laying around, don't I, Sean?
Laying around next to the salt and pepper shaker.
Yeah, I'll give it to him. I'll give him that. So here you go. Give him a handful of 6 or 8 rounds with it there.
Alrighty.
I kind of blink and I look at you and I'm like, you don't actually think we're gonna have to be shooting anyone at the cemetery, do you?
No, just maybe those beasties they talked about, the undead and all that
Hope
stuff
not.
just crawling
Probably-
up in the house.
Probably not. There's a very low percentile chance that we'll get into any kind of craziness.
Well,
Probably the same chance that there was of us not going into some dreamland and being chased back here. But
Yeah.
well, I suppose if that's the case, I can go grab my copy of Colonel Fawcett's notes. Maybe we could.
You're gonna continue the journal?
Well, if you'd like. But no, I don't think that's appropriate. But I do think that having reference for the symbol would be good, the elder sign.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we cast that from memory?
Yeah, there's the matter of the enchanted whistle too, Lee, if you ever wanted to. I mean, apparently you can you can use the command area traveler spell
Right.
without,
But it's not as-
with just a regular whistle.
But
you
it's not as
you don't even. Well, I mean, you still have to create. You have to get this meteorite material to even make the whistle itself.
Can
Right. So
can
I'll
we
put
cast can we cast spells from memory, or do we have to have the source material in front of us?
no, you can cast it from memory.
Oh, in that case, I don't need Fawcett's notes.
I'll definitely put some feelers out for vectors of meteorites, any kind of small. I don't need a giant chunk. Just
Roll
enough
your,
to make a flute.
Roll your credit rating for me, just as a precursor.
Where's that located?
It's
Down in your
it's a
skills.
skill.
Yep.
Okay, I got it. No, mine's not that good actually.
Good old-fashioned 15%.
Nip.
All right, you got somebody working on it for you.
Okay.
Beauregard. Your butler.
Beauregard.
Yeah, Beauregard, your
Yeah.
butler.
Will
Beauregard,
there
give me
be
some
anything
meteorite.
else? Could you
There's a-
find some? Yeah, as a matter of fact, could you go find me some meteorite material? Thanks,
There's a-
Beauregard.
There's a
Yes.
nice bonus. There's a nice bonus in it for you.
Yes, Mr. Cronin
Yeah.
Shields.
Well, yes, sir. Of course, sir. Yes, right away, sir.
Well, I
All right.
believe I have some meteorite in the cupboard.
That's right next to the allspice.
Down to St. Mary's in the morning. It's a fine day. It's blue. There's a lot of hustle bustle going on Monday morning, and the graveyard's pretty massive. It covers about 20 acres or more. And St. Mary's Church is right there on the grounds. It's this huge cathedral. And you can see there are some people in the graveyard today. There appears to be a funeral or a burial going on when you guys arrive. So what's the plan, fellas?
So is there I'm sure there's probably different sections of the graveyard. What's the oldest
Yes, it's
section?
pretty. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. The section closest to the cathedral and the church is the oldest.
We
So
should
we'll-
probably go talk to the the caregiver, the
The ground
somebody-
keeper.
Yeah, the groundskeeper. Exactly. Thank you.
So yeah, we'll enter the church.
Okay.
Look
Went
for
to
the
the church?
groundskeeper's residence, or
There is a residence out near the graveyard that you would assume to be the groundskeeper or his residence.
Oh, okay. We'll head over there.
All right. There's an old Model T sitting out front, and there's a man. There's a shed kind of detached from this small house, and there's a man out. It looks like he's doing some carpentry work. He's cutting some boards. Looks like he's building something. And as you guys go up, he kind of turns around, wipes his hands off on this rag, and he comes walking up. He goes, "What a fine day, gentlemen! What can I do you for?"
Indeed,
Harlow.
indeed, it
He
is a
says,
beautiful day.
"Harlow." He says, "Harlow Jeeves," and he shakes Jacob's hand.
Jacob Crowninshield, pleasure to meet you.
Ah, Crowninshield, eh?
Yeah, and let me introduce my friends, everyone.
Eusephus Brown. Pleasure.
And I'm Edgar Casey. It's a pleasure to meet you.
He's like, "What can I do you for today?"
Well, I believe we were wanting to know a little bit about the history of this fine tract of land here. How long have you been the caregiver here?
He's all been here for about 20 years. He says this cemetery is over 150 years old. The church was built in 1709.
Where are the oldest parts of the graveyard located?
He says right down over there, by the nearest the church, is the oldest part of the graveyard. You guys looking for anybody in particular?
No, we're just doing some different historical
Actually,
research.
should we ask if
Oh, you guys were with the press?
maybe maybe Whipple, see if Whipple's buried here somewhere. See if we know John Scott's not going to turn up.
Well,
I'll ask him. I'll say, what are you working on here? You look like you're making something.
I'm building my dog a house.
Oh.
That's the kind of work I can get behind, sir. That is where is the pooch?
He's like, where'd that damn dog go? He's like, Fritz! Fritz! And this black lab comes running over. He's like, here's my dog. His name's Fritz.
All right, so I start petting Fritz and get to know Fritz.
Sit, Fritz, sit. He sits.
So, have you had any issue with vandalism or anything like that around here lately?
It's just the normal kind of stuff, you know. Kids, they come out here sometimes. I have to chase them off. Nothing too serious. Nothing recently, he says.
Well,
What's that mean? Was there something in the...
No, he says, I don't know, a couple months ago, we had some kids out here just having a good old time out here in the graveyard. We don't allow people in the graveyard after dark. It's my job to kind of chase them off if they come out here. But just, just punk kids coming out here every once in a while. I have to chase them off. But no vandalism or defacing of property or anything, if that's what you mean.
Well, that's good.
well, maybe we should go look over near the church and the oldest parts of the cemetery. Would you mind if we had a look?
No, feel free.
All right. Well, pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you, Mr. Crownshield. He kind of bows his head to you.
I shake his hand and I pet Fritz. Good boy.
Yeah. Shake his hand and wish him a good day.
All right.
Owen, well, Mr. Jeeves, I actually am looking for somebody in particular. Is Mr. What was Whipple's first name?
Clyde.
Clyde Whipple.
Is it Mr. Clyde Whipple buried here? He would have been buried, I don't know.
Whipple. Let's see, Whipple.
Date
Older
here.
grave.
No, don't recall any Whipples being in this cemetery, it says. Could be wrong.
Well, if there were a grave of a man from... Let's see, I'm trying to look for the article where he's mentioned. There was an article about time, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the raid on the Scott farm was in 1721. So
Right,
you're assuming that,
okay.
that Whipple, Whipple was alive at that time. That was a long time ago.
If there were a grave that was dug in the 1700s, do you think it would have been here? I mean, the man lived around the Cambridge area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says there are some plots from the 1700s, early 1700s, out in that area over yonder. Don't recall the name Whipple, though.
All right.
Stanford?
It says there are some Cronin shields out there.
Oh, yeah.
How about a Stanford? Or a Stanford? Specifically Carl Stanford.
It says, yeah, I do believe there are some Stanford plots out there.
All right.
Is that in the same older part of the cemetery we're going to go look at, or?
If I recall, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, and then we're also looking for James Clark.
Say again?
We're looking for a James Clark.
James Clark?
Mm-hmm.
No. Well, you're going to have a hard. There's a lot of Clarks in this graveyard. James Clark. Well, yeah, I think there's some over there and over there. If I'm not mistaken, some over there.
Who's refresh my memory? Who was Clark?
He was the one who disappeared a couple of weeks ago.
I meant to say John Scott, but James Clark came out, so hey, if James Clark was buried, at least he's no longer missing.
Well, we know that's not him because he's still missing. But yeah, it's what about
John Scott.
John Scott?
That's
Overconfident warlock.
the overconfident warlock.
Yeah. I believe we have a good number of Scots in this cemetery as well. Well, those are common names, fellas. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, they're all from the general time frame of the 1700s, so
We'll float over to that area, the 1700s area. Start scanning the headstones and looking for names.
all right.
And looking for any disturbances.
yeah, we're looking at all of the graves, kind of offhandedly.
The odd claw mark from underneath the stone. What's that?
Right.
Or freshly
Right.
dug,
The misty circle of clawing hands that are following us.
freshly dug
So-
graves for old stones. You know.
So you guys spend about an hour and a half out here just kind of wandering around St. Mary's. I'm not finding really much of anything, guys.
Okay.
We'll go into the church then.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, inside the
Anybody-
church, you meet Father Marone. He introduces himself.
We getting
Yeah,
introduction.
Very kind, portly old priest. Very friendly. Offers you some refreshments.
Won't turn those down after walking around that cemetery for an hour and a half.
Indeed.
Father Malone, we're here to ask a few questions about the graveyard, and a few other questions as well. You see, we're here researching for some historical data and entries that we've been trying to clarify. Have you had any problems with grave robberies ever in your graveyard?
Why? I haven't had any grave robberies in this cemetery ever that I can recall.
Well, that's good. Have you have you
I mean,
ever-
we are in a central location of Boston, and we're very vigilant about guarding our cemetery from any wrongdoers.
as you should.
Would you mind if we had a look around the church just to take a look and admire the architecture? This is an old building, and
He says, "Not at all. Be my guest."
things, you know.
He says, "Be my guest," and you were asking a little of the history, and he goes on to tell you guys that again, this cemetery was established hundreds. There are some famous burials here, including the artist Gilbert Stuart, who was the painter of the famed portraits of George Washington and Martha Washington. Also, the composer William Billings, who wrote the famous colonial hymn Chester. Also, Samuel Sprague and his son, one of America's earliest poets. And also, Samuel Sprague was a participant in the Boston Tea Party.
Oh, how about that?
He fought in the Revolutionary War.
Awesome. Impressive.
And he gives you guys just a kind of a little, history lesson about the place, the cemetery specifically.
Cool.
Do you have any catacombs or underground burials here?
Oh no, nothing like that.
Well, I'll start. Each of us will start. Walking through the church, looking for cracks and angles, going downstairs.
Right, looking for the catacombs that are definitely underneath the church.
Exactly. Because nothing like an overconfident warlock to leave obvious signs at a church. That fucker.
Yeah. Well, the priest is with you guys. He doesn't just let you just wander off.
Okay, that's fine.
He tells you, some of these areas down here in the lower floor, the priest's chambers, and things like that. And he assures you, no, there are no catacombs or anything like that.
I ask him if he knows anything about the Silver Twilight Lodge.
I can't say I do. Is that some sort of men's club or something?
Yeah, it's a new fraternal order.
I'll be right back, guys.
But
Christian, I hope.
We frankly have no idea.
we're not sure. Did you know the mayor? An initiate?
Mr. Stanton?
Yes. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Well, I want to show you something that may be, but you have to promise me. You have to give me your oath that you won't share this.
Well, what is it, Mr. Cronjill?
So we'll pull out the little flyer.
Which
and I'll
one?
let him. The one that talks about anybody's welcome.
Oh, okay, right.
I mean, that would fly in the face of a lot of what this guy believes. So I'll just say this is something that's come to our attention.
It's relatively close by too, and I give him the description of the general place.
We're reticent to make too much of a thing about it because, again, like I said, the mayor is a part of this. You see
Oh, he says Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight.
Yeah, you see our quandary.
Sounds unclean. You do realize that Hermetic is related to occultism and alchemy and magic and those sorts of things.
Precisely. So you see why we're concerned.
The mayor is a member of this lodge, you say?
Exactly, and that's why we must.
He says, well, I didn't vote for him.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying we need to exercise incredible caution here. You don't want to spread that around. There could be consequences.
He hands it back to you.
Sure.
He hands it back to you, Jacob, and he kind of raises an eyebrow. He says, well, it is a free country, Jacob.
Absolutely. Can't possibly approve of this sort of thing.
Well, no, of course not. But, I have my beliefs and they have theirs.
The Holy See might see things differently, don't you think?
Well, I think we'll let God be the judge of that.
Who's the archdiocese in Boston?
Ooh, a hard question.
That sounds like a Google search if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Just curious who this guy's boss is.
Your guy said that this was okay.
Wow, there's a lot of them.
Edgar turns to the bishop, or were we with just a priest?
Just a
He's a priest.
Okay.
Yeah, Father Marone, his name.
Father Marone, I guess I'm kind of beating around the bush. The reason I wanted to bring this order to your attention is because we have reason to believe that in the past, similar orders in the area have, with the same name as this one, or at least led by people who are presumably the ancestors of the current head, we assume that they have dealt and spoken with and associated with grave robbers, so that's why we're kind of looking around. We're investigating those crimes. See, it's a relatively new order, but we think it's established using the similar tenets of former orders of the area. So we just wanted to make you aware that this is around, you know.
Yeah, he says, well, grave robbers have always been a problem, but not here and not now.
Excellent. Any of our fears.
I'll try to read
Indeed,
this.
we would not allow such a thing to happen. No, he seems pretty straight up.
All right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
God bless you, my son.
All right, so we'll take our leave.
All right.
Alright.
So what time is it when we finish up here?
It's going to be about lunchtime.
So I guess we could go talk the widow. Well, I guess she's not a widow yet, possibly. The guy who disappeared.
Yeah.
The soon-to-be widow.
Possibly, who knows? That's the only thing I can think of to do prior to going to this.
Well, we
The
could also we could do some minor investigation into the auxiliary, the women's circle that's part of this order. I mean, they seem to be a little more public about their actions, so we might be able to speak with them and get a gist of what it is that their order is all about without necessarily speaking directly with the order.
And maybe get a brownie out of it.
Yeah.
I like
you
the way
talking-
you think, Mr. Case.
You talking about like trying to find out where the female auxiliary people are?
Yeah, finding out where they are, if they have like a meeting place or if they just kind of come together whenever finding out whose wives are in it and where the members live, making this personal already.
Right.
Showing up to their
Yusuf
houses.
likes where this is going.
Show up to their houses. You best not be worshipping any demons.
Yeah. Well, I do think before we get too questioning with them, I mean,
Sure.
it's possible to do the meet and greet first.
You think? I think it would be better
Yeah.
to know kind of what we're walking into.
They're
Like
not
I
telling
said,
me.
I think
I just think the women would squawk immediately.
what that we were talking about,
To the-
that we visited.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
It's possible.
I mean, yeah, but I don't see what the problem with that is. I think that seems like a relatively safe thing
Yeah,
to
I'd
do.
like to,
You know, trying to figure out what the order is about before going to the meet and greet to talk with the
Maybe we
actual
can-
leaders.
Maybe we can go to this 18 Tremontaine close where
None of
Carl
us are-
Sanford.
Oh
Too bad none of us
yeah.
are. Too bad none of us are married. We'd have a send and be like, oh hey, you know.
Edgar is married, but his wife is back in Kentucky.
No.
I don't think he would want his wife to join the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight.
Open your horizons.
Good news, honey.
I would imagine that Jacob, at this point in his life, would probably have several prospects. I'm sure a marriage could be arranged. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
Go talk
Hey,
with
baby.
go
You
talk
interested
with
in
that,
getting involved with some baby eaters?
go talk with the go talk with the librarian secretary again.
Baby eater.
Walk in, throw a $20 bill at her. You're marrying me.
It's the same lady.
Shut up and be
Jesus.
quiet. You're marrying me.
She looks annoyed again. There's
No.
another 20.
Okay.
No, but seriously, I'm sure Jake would have some prospects.
Yeah.
Some lady friends.
Yeah, well, we can definitely let's investigate though. Like, I guess where they meet and who's involved with the women's auxiliary. That's a good idea.
Well, let's
Well,
not
I-
forget to check out that 18 Tremontaine clothes too, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can also
Maybe
visit
nothing, but who knows?
We can also visit James Clark's home and see if anything has come about with that.
John's or James. Yeah, this time James Clark. Gotcha.
All right.
James
So-
Clark is missing. John Scott is the guy who's supposedly heading this order along with Carl Stanford.
So how do you propose to go about investigating this Silver Twilight Auxiliary?
That seems pretty simple. The easiest way would probably be to find out if either John Scott or Carl Stanford is married, and then figuring out maybe where they live, although that could be very dangerous. So, actually no, it'd be even easier because they do public stuff. You said they do charity work, so we can probably contact them as a charity.
Yes. Yeah, Dr. Call mentioned that the auxiliary is involved with the annual formal Christmas dance, as well as the and a spring picnic that's coming up.
Well, then we can just
Call them up about the spring picnic.
Yeah, we can call them up about the spring picnic. I'm sure that they have a public phone number that we can just go ahead and call.
Okay. And what kind of
Probably-
information? What kind of information are you hoping to glean from this?
What the order that they are an auxiliary for is about in the public eye. Because, I mean, they are associated quite openly with the Silver Twilight Lodge, right?
The Hermetic Order, yes. Yes.
So, we can just ask them.
And from your
about-
understanding, Dr. Call told you guys that mostly it's members' wives who
Right.
are members of this, yes.
Right, so they'll understand pretty well, right? I mean, they're the wives of the actual members.
Okay. So you look in the phone directory. There's no listing for the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight. There's no listing for the Auxiliary, Women's Association for the Hermetic Order of Silver Twilight. There are several listings for Carl Stanford's, and there are several listings for John Scott's.
I guess we have to go to look for public records.
How many?
I guess we have to go look for public records on their marriage. I mean, there's marriage certificates, right? Like, you have to. Marriage is a public record, right? When you get
Yes.
married.
Yes.
So we can look to see if Carl Stanford or John Scott is married, and if they aren't married, then we have nothing to go on. Except
Well-
for. I mean.
Well, according to the telephone directory and some of the public records you're looking at, there are 26 Carl Stanfords in Boston, and there are 38 John Scotts in Boston.
Are any of them located at 18 Tremontaine Close?
No. And actually, doing a little research on the Tremontaine, it's actually sort of in a more seedy part of town. It's like in East Boston, kind of out towards where the docks and the wharfs are.
Rough.
All right.
Rough, yeah.
That sounds like a good place to go check out.
Yeah, let's head over there.
Okay. Sure.
When you guys get out there, kind of putt along in the old Twin Six, driving through the mean streets of Boston. It's a vacant lot, and it looks like it's part of the property of some docking warehouses now. That address no longer exists.
Well,
What's on? Is it just scrub on the? Is the lot
Just-
flat?
Yeah, it's flat. It looks like it hasn't been, nothing's been built on it for a long time. And as I said,
No.
it's fenced off. There's like the fences, and it looks like it's part of the property. You can see some docking warehouses. You're out near the harbor, and it looks like it's a business district area.
Can
now.
we access the property, or is it totally
Yeah.
fenced up?
No, you could probably jump the fence if you wanted to.
I'm gonna jump the fence and put my ear to the ground.
Okay.
the thrumming of machinery and
Yes.
the howls of ghouls.
No, you hear nothing but the steamers out there in the bay. A few cars passing by every now and then.
Is there any noticeable difference between the scrub within the confines of the fence and the scrub in, say, the neighbor's yard?
No.
Or across the street?
I asked Eusephus if there's any kind of foundation or any kind of evidence of a prior structure anywhere.
Nope.
I knew I brought a shovel
If-
for a reason.
Yeah.
No,
If there was, it's been excavated a long time ago.
Well, in that
I mean, I believe that
Edgar, you want to get
article.
your shovel out here?
That article was from 80 years ago, Lee. When that Carl Sanford with a K.
Eusephus
at
needs
this
to get a
particular address.
fake
That was
police
80
badge.
years ago.
Okay.
I think with Jacob's credentials, I could probably get a real police badge.
Then we'd have a reason to start just digging up people's yards.
Well, if we
Well, I
need to
think
have
with
someone,
the-
if we need to have someone like that with us, we just need to have a Pinkerton with us.
Well, I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense, just considering the climate. I think Eusephus probably would be looking for ways to bring liquor into Boston, and it would be all about it. And you could easily become like a prohibition agent for the express purpose of spreading your own prohibition talents, because that's how
Yeah,
it was.
like in Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
So, and actually I posted something. If you look under the journal, and this is good bathroom reading for you guys, okay? There's underneath the background menu, there's something called a professional investigator. This is something printed by Cassian years and years ago, and I found it very interesting. I haven't read the whole thing, but basically it's called the professional investigator. Pro tips, the art of investigation, and witness psychology. And it starts out saying, the one thing that separates the professional private investigator from the amateur is that photostatic copy of his license, ready to be presented when proof of profession is demanded. So there is something to that, If you can get a license for a private investigator, that can overcome many, 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 many obstacles in this game.
I need a proper license.
Maybe we should go
So-
do that now. Like, that can't take too long, right?
It depends on
Okay.
how much bribery money you want to pay. I would imagine
We have a crown and shield.
Because
in Boston, since I am who I am, I imagine if I went down to the proper authorities at City Hall and brought a big enough envelope, I could have all of us immediately be private investigators.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the-
basically, there are certain ethical standards by which a
Yeah.
private judged, but basic requirements are really the same. All applicants have to provide proof of investigative experience. Generally, this can be 10 years at the police department, 5 years with an insurance or other professional investigator, lengthy apprenticeship with other licensed detective agency, things like this.
But if there's anything
So
that
yeah,
I've
you're
learned
probably
about...
paying people off. Plus, you have to post a bond. Pretty hefty bond.
Yeah, but if there's
And,
anything I've learned about the 1920s, it's that ethics are very malleable.
Oh, absolutely. You have to go through a background check. You have to demonstrate good mental health.
Or just have a lot of money.
Oh, that's
Jesus,
hilarious.
man, we don't hit any of the marks for any of this stuff.
We have money.
Relatives and friends may be contacted and questioned by state investigators. You have to pass a written exam, and in some states an oral exam.
But,
So
I mean,
there's a process.
yes, but Eusephus also has criminal contacts. right?
Yes, but no convictions, as far as we know.
Yeah,
Right,
not as far as
so-
we know.
I mean, like,
So we should be
kind
good.
of player knowledge. Eustace has criminal contacts, and I'm assuming that those criminal contacts, many of them are probably bootleggers, and many bootleggers usually associate with the police. And if you know somebody that's associating with the police, and you're friends with that person that's associating with the police, you might be able to get a couple of strings pulled and then be associated with the police. And with that association with the police, get yourself a fake badge.
Well, we
Yeah.
could try that route, or we could try the heavy bribery route.
I
I'm
like
game for
both.
either. The two-prong approach.
Well, and the other option is to just have an agency detective with you.
True.
Have a Pinkerton with you. Dude, those guys are pretty much, most of them are ex-police anyways.
Well, we should bring a cannon fodder with. I mean, a investigator with us.
Yeah, we had.
Well, a good Pinkerton man is definitely a dangerous person.
Yeah, we
Guys are
should.
serious dudes.
Yeah.
And one good thing about these private investigators too is there's sort of a privileged relationship, the same as you'd have with an attorney. Like if you guys were to hire Pinkerton guys or private investigators or whatever, it allows you guys to maintain any information as private. So even though. So even though local police may be onto you guys doing something, having illegal weapons or whatever, anything that this private investigator or Pinkertons would do for you is not a matter of public record. I mean, it's private. Not subject to any kind of law enforcement interference per
Up
se.
to and including the murder of cultists.
And
Now-
they're respected, and they're respected by the police too.
Yes.
They have some weight with. So I say we hire an agency detective.
Yeah, but we should probably do that after we do whatever we're going to do with the Hermetic Order. I don't think we should drag more people into that.
Oh, I think we should. Sure, why not? Drag one more person in.
Oh, you can just stand at the ready outside with the Packard.
Exactly. You never. I mean, have him as the driver, or whatever.
My only worry
There's
is that
somebody
there
who
are
defends our
oaths
stuff.
involved. When there are oaths involved, who knows, man? Magic is wonky.
Well, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to hire one and have him at least be our driver or chauffeur.
Yeah, and then we can put a wonky magic exclusion in the contract just in case he comes back later to sue us.
Well, see, the wonky magic exclusion would be not having him join the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight.
No one's going to join. None of us. Even Call said he wasn't going to join. Not this time around. We're just there to mix and mingle and talk and see.
Unless they
See
can
what-
promise him they'll ride horses again, then he'd probably sign his life away for that, just to get away from his wife and paralyze.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they probably would.
Yeah, they've honed in on that for sure.
We could actually use that backup character that you rolled up, Lee, if you wanted to.
Sure,
I mean, he's an agency detective.
he is.
Wow, yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like you guys just want to have somebody to use as a, sort of a buffer.
Yeah, the
Between
muscle for
maybe
the
you-
muscle.
Yeah, well, I said buffer. Like a buffer between you and any kind of law enforcement interference, as well as maybe a bodyguard type.
Exactly. That's exactly what he is, man. Badge.
Alright, well, at
All
any
right,
rate,
we can work something like that out.
at any rate,
And that
This-
wouldn't be unusual for someone to have a bodyguard with them, actually, if they had any kind of standing.
No, you could get somebody on retainer really quick.
Keep the unclean masses away from you, Master Crown and Shield.
Precisely.
I mean, how they may react to the more esoteric angle of what you guys are involved in, I don't know, but
Right.
but then again,
Somewhere-
these guys are not only detectives, but they're businessmen too. So it's it's not. They're going to be like, well, it's none of my business, kind of a thing. But things could get a little weird depending on what direction things go.
Yeah. Well, I definitely explain to once we hire this individual, I definitely explain to them that we are dangerous activities, life-threatening activities, and you'll be compensated appropriately. And I find out what that is, but I definitely let him know that.
You're not going to be bored.
Yeah, this is not. I mean, it's possible. We'll just toast drinks and have a good time, and there won't be any problems. But there could be death and murder. Be aware.
Death and murder.
Well, obviously, I mean, even
and these guys are used to that. They do that kind of thing.
Yeah, even in the game so far, you've used, I think, some Pinkertons to do some stuff for you. So you probably know some of these guys personally. So it wouldn't be a problem to call them up and give them the lowdown on what you need, and what you want, and what you expect.
Yep.
Okay, well, in that
It's going to cost you
particular
some dough.
in that particular case, are we just going to do this now? Are we going to go from Tremontaine's empty vacant lot to the feds after realizing that we can't really that we're probably going to need some legal protection from here on out?
Well, we're not talking about the feds. We're talking about private detectives.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Private eyes, basically.
Well, you know what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can arrange that.
Are we going to do that now, or are we going to wait until after the Hermetic order?
Well, it's still Monday, yeah?
Yeah, it's still Monday.
So why not do it?
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, we stop.
Or at least make that contact, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. I hire him. Well, I've used in the past that I trust, and call him over to.
So did you ever name Batman Lee?
Make sure they. No, I didn't actually. not named him.
Hale, you can have my name, Hale Manley. That's a pretty good name for a fed or a cop or anything.
That was a good name.
You could call him Bane Woos.
Bane Woos.
Yeah, Bane Woos, man.
Bane Woos.
Instead of Bruce Wayne.
Bane Woos.
Push the names
That's
around
weak, Kyle. That's too easy.
You don't think I should enter that into the county fair? That's weak sauce.
All right. So his name is Bane Woos.
No,
His name's not Bane Woos.
I forbid it.
Oh.
His name is Random NPC.
You could confuse things by naming him one of the people that we've met. Name him,
Name him John Scott.
John Scott.
The second. Rando Randomski.
Rando.
Yeah, you should name him like somebody who'd be a linebacker for the Packers, the Packers way back, just like all consonants last name.
Here, I know what I can do.
How about Randy Uto, Lee?
Uto.
No,
not Uto.
Uto.
No, Uto.
Uto?
Uto. Like you.
You.
So.
Do. Udo? Udo.
No, it's spelled UJCZO. Uto.
That didn't help at all.
Well, I can't help you anymore.
Usual. Unusual.
Or like, here, I got it.
Name him Rango Fiend.
There you go, Yuzo. Spelled.
Here, let's pick random words out from these.
his name's Benjamin Knuckles.
Benjamin Knuckles.
Well, it did have a name, Studs Hootnick. How about that one?
Stud Hootnick, I love it.
Studs Hootnick.
Studs.
Hootnick.
Good. Studs.
I actually got that from when I was watching the whole, getting myself reacquainted with the 1920s, and that was a fucking guy who was like recounting like something, and his name was Studs Hootnick. I was like, oh, I'm writing that down.
You okay with that, Lee?
Studs Hootnick is the best.
Studs Hootnick.
What's the name?
Studs
Here,
Hootnick.
I'll send
And he doesn't have to be your backup character, but I can use his stats or whatever in the time being until I can come up with. Before next session, I'll come up with an NPC.
As much as I like Studs Hutnick, I think it's going to be Benjamin Knuckles.
Okay,
All right.
that's fine.
Benjamin Knuckles.
Yeah, that's his name.
I love it.
Okay. Benjamin Knuckles. Knuckles like a.
Yeah,
All right.
With the silent PH up front.
that's actually a surname. That's like a Welsh English surname.
There you go.
Let me see. I think I got a token for him here.
Could have called him Max Power. Saxon male. Yeah, that's funny.
All right. How much your cat's driving me nuts on here? All right, here we go. Ben Knuckles.
It's actually perfect.
All right. Let's take a break here for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Just give me like 3 or 4 minutes.
I'm going to step away for a minute too.
I ain't going nowheres.
Do you need to go out there, Tracy?
I like Saxon male.
I like that one too. It is what it is what it says it is.
Jibbity jab. You heard me.
Jibbity
Well,
jab.
there ain't no taking that bag.
Well, meet and greet, huh?
Oh yeah, man. We're gonna. I mean, yeah, this is gonna be something else. I don't know what to expect.
Be relatively casual. There'll just be some discussion about, philosophy and stuff.
Philosophy?
Yeah, so, just go with the flow, whatever. But I'd say at some point we're going to have to make some sort of entry into this property surreptitiously, we'll say.
You don't think it's going to open with, "Do you live in hope to see great Cthulhu striding the earth?"
that
Hell
point.
yeah! I mean, no.
Yeah. But seriously, when we're here, we all need to like just look at the layout for any kind of security.
I mean, if they're warlocks, they're all secure.
If you can, you get up, get someplace where you can unlock a window or find, anyways, just we'll take a little recon of the place.
Sure, yeah. If they let us leave the, foyer. The foyer.
Foyer.
All right. So, Ben Knuckles pays a visit to you that evening, and he's totally on board. Of course, he wants to negotiate a retainer fee, and he says either a weekly or a monthly basis would be acceptable.
We'll do monthly.
Okay.
Should we tell him anything about what's happened to us?
Again, I just want to impress upon him the seriousness of the situation and how we've.
Well, how much
Friends
are
and
you telling him? I mean, just generally.
Well, we basically explain that there could be nation that's established that is trying to pass itself off as something benign and good, but it'd be something quite evil, for a lack of better description.
Not good.
Okay, fair enough.
They say they were good, but really they're not good at all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alright, yeah, I guess, we'll just kind of lay down the line, and I guess we won't tell him that we stopped a wizard from destroying the world, and that we, at one point I was afraid of trees.
Yeah, no, we don't want to go.
All
Some
right,
things
so-
you have to discover for yourself.
Oh my god, he's afraid of trees!
I'm sorry, I can't take this job. I can't stomach a coward from trees.
I draw the
Damn
line at tree
cowards.
fear.
Exactly. I can accept a lot, but not that.
Okay, so we'll get our best evening wear together, I suppose, right? Is this supposed to be some kind of formal event?
No, he said it was pretty casual.
Oh, casual. Okay, awesome.
Sweet, show up naked.
Smoking jackets and pipes.
How does $70 a month retainer sound?
I'll give him 100.
70 a month.
No more, no less!
Crown and Shields, not great negotiators.
No, I'll tell him. I'll say you'll believe me. You'll earn it.
Very
And
well,
then,
Mr. Connonshield.
then he winks at him and makes him feel really uncomfortable.
After this is over, he'll wish that was what was going on, dude.
Don't worry, you'll
He'll
earn
be
it.
like, oh, those sweet memories of horrible.
All right, is he to accompany you on this whole meeting Tuesday?
Oh, absolutely.
That's why we bought him.
He's officially my bodyguard. You know.
Okay. Mr. Knuckles.
Mr. Knuckles.
All right. Well, let me
Out the beatings.
Yeah, you gotta give him
There's so many pun opportunities with his first name.
Give me some examples, Kyle.
What you been up to? I don't know. There's got to be more there.
You give me
horrible.
one mediocre pun?
That's it, man. That's all I got for you. Hey, you be on Oxycontin and do this, baby. I think I'm knocking it out of
Good
the park.
point. Good point. Good point.
All right. So Tuesday evening, you prepare yourselves to visit the Silver Twilight Lodge. And as you arrive, this is kind of what the lodge looks like here. It's the Addams family house.
I was gonna say it looks like the Disney World's haunted house.
Yeah, it's the Addams family house. Um,
Is that legitimately the Addams Family house?
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Now that you mention it, I think it is.
So you drive on down to the fashionable Cambridge neighborhood, and pulling up to the lodge, there's sort of a half circle driveway going up to it where all these cars are parked. And the lodge hall seems to have 3 floors. It's a 3-story building.
Above
Yeah.
ground.
And unlike the picture, it could be the picture maybe, but you notice that the second and third floors of the building, black windows along the back of the building and the sides of the building. There are only windows in the second and third floors in the front. There's also, you noticed around the back, there's a fire escape at the back of the house with sort of a counterweighted ladder, sort of an old-fashioned fire escape. It's a very handsome, fairly new-looking building. And as you walk up to the front door, you see a dark-skinned man with a fez on his head and a tuxedo. Asks you to sign a guest book as you walk up to the door. There's sort of a little foyer as you walk in.
All right. I'll sign it Chemo Winterbottom.
Okay. So
Well, how many names are on it?
quite a few. Several dozen, it looks like.
Any that seem relatively
you can-
recognizable?
You scan it, and you do see Dr. Edward Call written in there. Other than that, you really don't recognize any names.
Are all of them first and last?
Yes.
I guess I'll put Edgar Casey.
Okay. What were you expecting to see, like Bocephus or something?
Well, I guess if I sign, if I sign last, I guess I will take note that Eusephus didn't sign the book.
You can hear from the foyer that you guys are standing in, just inside, there's a doorway that kind of goes into the house. You can hear, men talking, glasses clinking. A bit of a song breaks out, actually, for a moment as you guys are standing in the foyer. To your left is apparently some sort of reception area. There's a coat room right there. And the man bids you into this little reception area off to the side.
Do we need to tell you what we have with us?
Yes, that would be a good idea. And I can bring up the map for you guys too here. I'm just going to give you the whole map here.
I'll sign the book.
Okay.
Okay.
So what do you have on you, Jacob?
I have my 45 with a magazine in it and 2 extra magazines, and then is concealed my my leg.
Okay.
We got the
Light-
same setup.
Lighter, pipe,
I have an empty cigarette case and a pack of matches.
An empty cigarette case. Okay.
I can sense a MacGyver moment on its way.
So Jacob's got his 45. Eusephus?
.45 in the combat knife.
Okay. And we'll say old Ben has a 45 as well. You guys are led into this reception room down here to the
Oh.
left. Yeah.
And a canteen. A small canteen.
Dude,
But it's filled with oil.
I love Edgar's setup.
It's filled with oil. Just in case.
Oil-filled canteens and shovels.
He's going to burn the fucking place down on the first night.
Look, I have the cigarette case just in case somebody asks why I have a pack of matches. And I have the canteen in case I get thirsty.
For oil.
For oil in case the house needs to be burned down. Yes.
I think I endorse that plan wholly and fully.
I just think the whole setup's awesome, though.
It is awesome.
It starts with, I bring a 45. I bring my shotgun. I throw in a shovel. It's almost like we're trick-or-treating with Charlie Brown. Like, you know, like, I got 3 pieces of candy. I got a rock.
I got a pack of gum. I got
a pack of gum.
Okay, so
you guys are... Yeah, here, actually, I'm going to take this map here. And we're going to move it over here. Just to clean things up a little bit. All right. So you are led into this reception area to the left here, down here. Actually, the dark gentleman in the tuxedo asks to take your coat. You can see the door is open into the reception area. There's several gentlemen standing in there. They're all casually dressed. There's about 6 of them. And they're all just standing around in a loose group talking. And the dark gentleman, says, "May I take your coat, gentlemen?"
absolutely.
Sure.
We still have our those are just our top coats. We still have our suits on, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you enter the reception area, and it's very handsomely furnished with plush chairs and small tables. The walls are paneled with wood, and the floors are all of polished oak with fine carpets. And you see several men standing in the middle of the room. And as you 4 gentlemen enter the room, one of the men turns to you and walks out with his hand extended. And he says, "Gentlemen, welcome to the lodge."
I'll shake his hand and introduce myself.
Mr. Crowninshield. Says, "I am Carl Stanford."
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Stanford.
Yes, he says, yes, Dr. Call said that you and your friends would be joining us this evening. Because I'm glad you could come. It's a fine evening.
Yeah, we're delighted to have the invitation and look forward to a lively discussion.
He says, "Yes, well, make yourself comfortable. I'll be with you in a moment."
Absolutely. Is there a place for us to get drinks?
Yes, there's a bar over there. Help yourself. And indeed, there's a little bar on a cart over there with some fine crystal decanters and such. Carl stands about 5'10". Looks like he weighs about 165 pounds. He looks kind of slightly pudgy and very common looking, actually. I mean, the picture, you can tell he looks like just a normal dude.
Don't we all?
Do I notice anything about him when I shake his hand and I look into his eyes?
Jacob, you notice that he's wearing these glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And you notice that the lenses appear to be just plain glass. They don't appear to be prescription glasses. You kind of notice that as he, introduces himself and he says, "I'll be with you in a moment." He kind of turns, and you notice at that moment that the lenses of his glasses are just plain glass. He has very dark black hair. He's wearing a suit and a tie. It's more of a kind of a leisure suit. He looks to be probably about 35 years old. And he walks over and begins talking to these other men. They seem to be mostly Bostonian types standing there. There is another dark-skinned man in this room in a tuxedo. He's wearing a fez as well, standing over by the bar. And as you approach the bar, he offers to serve you drinks. "What would it be this evening, gentlemen?" he says with a strange accent.
Scotch.
"Well, of course."
Now you're talking.
I can't place your accent. Are you from
Says, "Oh,
Upper Africa, Egypt, Morocco?"
yes, Mr. Cottonfield, I am from Nigeria."
Oh, Nigeria. Okay. Yes. I thought I heard some of that. Okay.
"I am a second-generation American, proudly." And he kind of thumps his chest. There are also two other servants in this room. One of them also appears to be African. One of them appears to be Oriental. They're in tuxedos, and each of them is wearing this sort of felt maroon fez with a golden tassel. So you guys kind of stand around drinking your drinks. Everything is very fine in here. I mean, just the best. Like the best carpet, the mahogany furniture, crystal chandeliers hanging above. And
Do we see Dr. Call?
You don't see Dr. Call, not in the reception area as of yet. Stanford walks back over to you guys, and he says, he looks at his wristwatch, and he says, "Dr. Call has not yet arrived. Come with me. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Scott," he says.
Certainly.
All right.
We'll follow him.
He leads you across the way. He leads you back into the foyer here and into this sort of northern reception room. And he leads you in here, and this room is empty except for two servants in there. And they are preparing what appears to be a table of hors d'oeuvres. They're arranging things on a table. So it's just you guys and Carl Stanford in the room at the moment. And he says, "Just one moment, gentlemen. I'll go get Mr. Scott." And he leaves. And you guys are in this room alone.
All right, so take a look around. Observe.
Is the door closed or open?
The door is open.
Well, kind
Again, this room is, very similar to the others. Very handsomely furnished, plush chairs, small tables, small bar with some hors d'oeuvres set out by these servants, and the servants, offer you some refreshments, some hors d'oeuvres. A couple minutes go by, and you hear Dr. Call's voice out in the foyer. And Jacob, you kind of poke your head out, and you can see Dr. Call has arrived, and they're taking his coat. And he sees you. He says, "Jacob!"
Yeah, Dr. Call.
"Good evening, Jacob. How are you?"
Oh, excellent. How are you doing, Doctor?
"Very well, thank you." He seems a little drunk. And he says, "Have you met Mr. Stanford?"
Introduced himself and actually is going to bring Mr. Scott in to...
"Ah, very well, very well." He says, let's have a drink." And he walks back into the reception area where the others are. As he's walking in, you see come out of the lounge area. And here you can see Carl Stanford followed by a man about 6 feet tall, 170 pounds. And he seems kind of bony and aquiline. Lee, do you remember that word aquiline? Do you remember Lee
Yes.
called our English teacher in high school aquiline, or said she had an aquiline nose or something like that, and impressed her. I don't know where she was a really cool teacher. I remember her.
She was, yeah.
But yeah, that was funny. He seems kind of bony looking and aquiline, and he comes walking into the room with Stanford, and perhaps he looks even a little cunning, because as he walks in, you can see his skin is sort of coarse and pocked and reddened, maybe as if he suffers from some sort of skin condition. But as he moves through the foyer, you can see all the servants' eyes kind of just follow him into the reception area, and anyone standing about is looking at John Scott as he's walking by. His hair is very thick red, and his eyes are pale, watery. He's got this kind of gruff look on his face. Seems like maybe a little arrogant. And he's also wearing a suit and tie. He also looks to be about 30 years old. And he enters the room. Well, maybe more like 35, maybe even push 40, but he enters the room, and Stanford walks up to you guys, and he says, "Gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Scott. He is what we call our noble philosopher of the order." And Scott extends his right hand to each of you, and doesn't say anything. He just looks at you with these kind of, beady eyes, doesn't smile. And,
I return the expressionless gaze as I shake his hand.
Okay. And Stanford is like, "Surely, John, these are potential initiates. Be nice." And Scott turns to him. He says, "Oh, yes, of course. Well, it's been a long day, you see. My wife," he says, and he walks over to the bar and begins pouring himself a drink. He says, Stanford says, "Come, gentlemen, sit." And Dr. Call's with you guys, by the way, as well as good old Ben Knuckles is there as well.
Yeah.
And so he has you guys sit down in these really plush and comfy chairs. The servants are serving you drinks. They bring over some hors d'oeuvres. And he says, "Well, Dr. Call has told me that you have some interest in joining our order." He says, "May I ask, do any of you currently belong to any other fraternal organizations in the city at this point?"
No, sir.
Of course, I do belong to some of the more exclusive private clubs, but
I go to church every Sunday.
"Ah, Mr. Casey, you come from the South?"
Mm-hmm. I do indeed. Kentucky.
"And you too, Mr. Braun?"
Oh, absolutely.
"Just whereabouts?"
Well, here and there. I don't like to talk about my past history too much. I do like to talk about the future, though. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what we have going on here?
He says, "Well, you see, we are a fraternal order, and we have discussions on things as diverse as philosophy, the occult, and things as such. Do any of you have any interest in the occult, I wonder?"
I give a smile, like a kind of a frowny yes, nod my head.
I said we're all quite well traveled.
"Yes? Quite well traveled. Please, tell."
We've been to Central and South America, the Middle East, the Caribbean.
Europe.
suppose you do open your mind up to different ideas, different thoughts, how one perceives the world and reality, of course.
Indeed.
Not all Western paradigms apply once you've seen other ways.
You know, Jacob,
Correct?
he said, you know, Jacob, your father had quite a reputation in this town. 'Tis a shame that he passed.
Absolutely. One of the pillars of the community.
At this point, John Scott comes over and he sits right next to Edgar. Edgar, getting a closer look at John Scott, he indeed seems to have some sort of skin condition. He looks quite unhealthy, actually. Like I said, he seems kind of bony and just sick looking.
Well, that's what happened when you were burned 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Hard to recover from that.
That's ridiculous. He says, well,
Give you
From-
some of
he says, from
Miguel's
what,
mule rub for that.
he says from what Dr. Calls tells me, you know, it seems like you would fit right in here. He says, we are always looking for men of quality and temperance.
And temperance?
We do require a certain degree of discretion, you see.
Absolutely. One would expect nothing less. And I drink my scotch.
Yeah, right after temperance, which is abstinence
I do.
from alcoholic
I do.
drink.
Drink my scotch and I snap at the servant to bring me more. More scotch.
So Stanford, he's just kind of making small talk, you know, he's asking like where you're from, and you know, he's saying, he talks a little bit more about your dad. Then John Scott kind of chips in and cuts Stanford off, and he looks at Eusephus and he goes, where at in Central America?
British Honduras?
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing down there?
Well, we had a foray looking for one of our compatriots, but wound up empty-handed. Came back with a good case of malaria.
He doesn't
But
even
I nod.
smile. He doesn't even make a facial expression. Stanford kind of chuckles. Like
Malaria, hilarious.
like good one. You know, he thinks you're joking.
Yes, malaria, more like malarious.
He says, well, gentlemen, let me explain to you a little of how things proceed. Upon checking some just precursory references for each of you, we do require a dues that is rather substantial. Although I'm sure, you know, having a friend like Jacob Cronenshield be a drop in the bucket per se. But he says we require a fee of $500 per 6 months. And we do a lot of charity work, you see. And anything above and beyond that you would care to donate would be graciously accepted. He says we also require you to proceed through our different degrees of membership. He says we have 3 degrees. He says we have the first degree is neophyte. And he says this we begin to teach you great and mysterious things that the common man perhaps has forgotten in the ages leading up to the 20th century. He says
Forgotten knowledge.
Yes, exactly, Jacob. He says our second degree is initiate. In this degree, we delve further into the greater hermetic and occult mysteries of the universe. And our final degree is master. where we teach yet more secrets and diverse things such as Egyptian magic and such. Now, as I said, this fraternity does require a certain degree of secrecy because we don't wish the public to have misperceptions about our goals and ways, you see.
Yeah, of course.
He says,
It's everything.
so he says the way to progress through the degrees is generally the neophytes are given lectures on noble purposes of the order. And once you are a member, a certified member of the order, you are granted access to our such things as our libraries and our lodge room and some of our more in-depth lectures and meetings.
I love a good library.
Yeah, he says, of course, we will not ask you to do or commit to anything immoral or embarrassing, gentlemen. He says, we teach things such as the Hermetic Order's secret handshake, and the lectures for each degree differ in certain ways, and eventually, if you are to reach the level of master, we have even higher degrees that I am not at liberty to talk about to prospective members, he says.
Has anyone ever left the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight?
He says, why, yes, you are not committed to stay once you are a member, Mr. Casey.
May I ask, why have some people left?
Some have left? Well, for various reasons. Sometimes there are family matters, health reasons, and such. But I'm quite confident that men such as yourselves would find a very comfortable and interesting home with
Are
us here at the
you
Order.
are you established in any other parts of the world or the country?
He says, well, yes, indeed, we do. We are.
Such as where, may I ask?
He looks at John Scott.
Sometimes I travel to Europe.
Yeah, that's mostly why I was asking.
I have places in, I occasionally get to London, occasionally get into France.
He says, yes, we have chapters around the United States. We mainly focus on the States these days. Although we do have some loosely connected chapter houses in Europe as well as Asia, he says.
Oh, well, good to know. Travel.
Carl laughs. Carl laughs, and John Scott just glares at you.
I laughed directly at Scott. I'm like, oh,
You get a smirk out of him.
that's sweet.
Um,
Last to him, I'm like, oh.
At this point, Stanford stands, and he says, well, gentlemen, come into the lounge and enjoy yourselves. We're going to be serving a light meal here, and he looks at his watch in about 30 minutes. He says, come in, introduce yourself to some of the other prospective members. He says, drink, be merry. He says, speak to me before you leave, and if you're interested in joining the order, we can make arrangements for your initiation, he says.
Thank you for your gracious hospitality. Pleasure to meet you.
He kind of bows slightly, shakes all of your hands. John Scott just gets up and walks out of the room.
Right.
So, you guys walk into the lounge, and it's a largish room. There's a dining room off to the north of the lounge, and there's a full bar with tables and stuff to the south. And it's very informal, the walls are paneled, the floors are carpeted. Scattered around the room, there's overstuffed chairs, small tables with electric lamps, which are the only source of light in the room. And there are four servants. They look like all of them are foreigners, kind of scurrying about the room, serving drinks and hors d'oeuvres. The dining room has walls painted an ivory color with a polished wood floor. And the north wall has 5 large windows with white drapes, electric chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. And the room's filled with round dining tables, each with 4 chairs. As you guys walk into the bar seems to be very well stocked. Now remember, this is Prohibition, 1920s. The bar seems to be very well stocked. It has paneled walls, polished wood floor, 3 windows with heavy purple drapes. There's 2 servants in this room. And there's quite a few people in here. And given that it's after time to stop, I guess now would be a good time to stop. Since you guys are actually in the lodge, and we can start here next time. How's that sound?
Okay.
Sounds
That
good.
sounds good.
All right, cool. Well, I will work up a stat block here for Mr. Ben Knuckles. I'll work up some stats for him for next time.
You're good, man. Great game.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that was awesome. We can finally join the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight Lodge, right?
We can
Yeah.
only hope to aspire to join them.
Yeah, it apparently, seems to be going in that direction. As long as you guys can pass the requirements of references and pay the fees that is required to join, I see no problems. Although you will have to meet. We'll do the meeting with Mr. Stanford next session,
Right.
as you were about to leave, and we'll see what else he has to say
Right.
about actually joining. And you'll be able to meet and kind of mingle about here with some of these other people, and probably meet some.
Yeah, there could be some more Boston highbrow people.
Oh,
Families.
there are. Yeah, there definitely are, as well as some other characters.
The seedier ones.
No, there are no seedy people here, dude.
Oh, okay.
They don't allow seedy people in here. Yusufus, you were kind of borderline. They let you come in because you were with Crown and Shield.
I
mean-
knew that from the start.
I mean, look at you.
I know. With the acid burns on my face.
Yeah,
That's a
Yeah.
conversation piece in itself.
right. All right, so till next time.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys.
Good game, guys.
Nice work.
Thanks, Sean.